You are listening to Insights with Kathleen. Please join me while I share my insights and experiences with the hope to inspire you to look inside of yourself for the answers that you already have. As with all information we receive, take what speaks to you and leave the rest.
Hey, Sherry!
Wow, hey, Kathleen, how you doing? You definitely woke me up.
Welcome to the couch again.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the cow chicken, and I was like, I don't think we're serving that here on this podcast.
Cow chicken. Ooh, I like that.
No, you don't like that.
Is that like a turducken?
Ew, maybe it is. I haven't had turducken. I don't think I'm going to try anytime soon.
Can you imagine taking a whole big cow and stuffing it with a little teeny tiny chicken?
Ew, it would just rip the... Anyway,
How
hi,
could you
guys.
find the chicken?
Welcome to our new cooking show. I don't know how to cook, and apparently our menu is just couch chicken. Welcome to the couch. I'm Sherry.
And I'm Cathleen.
And this is our podcast, and I'm excited. We haven't been around for a little bit.
Well, we were fighting illnesses,
Right.
Like
Trying
a
to get
cold
healthy.
or a flu or something, or just tired. You had exams.
I did. I had final exams, and I passed, guys. Yay!
Yay! So, Sherry, you're done for this year, right? So you're now
Yeah.
on summer break.
I am on summer break, and I guess that leads us. That's a good segue into our topic.
You're welcome.
And that leads us into like what my topic was. Well, our topic was for today, and it was just kind
It's
of
really
like,
Sherry's topic. Don't just because it says Insights with Cathleen, it's really all Sherry's show.
it's the Sherry Show. Welcome. But yeah, I wanted to talk about like the transition of me being at school away 2 semesters, living on my own, doing all these things by myself, and the transition into going home for the summer. And it's been an interesting one.
Yeah.
I'm a little stressed.
You
I'm not
are.
gonna lie. And like, you know, my parents and my family are lovely people, but like it's such a different routine.
Sure.
And of course, you know, I'm like rearranging my room, and just like the relationship with my parents, because, you know, when I left, they're like, oh, little girl. And it's like, I'm coming back, and, you know, I feel very adult because I've done all these things. And I guess it's that transition into like, hey, adulthood, but also having my parents treat me in a certain way because I am an adult.
Yes, sure.
And kind of doing some deprogramming in the sense of like old patterns, because now since I've been away at school, I'm like, wow, yeah, this is very healthy. This is very, you know what I mean? And then coming home, I'm like, oh, these are some behaviors like I don't like when people treat me that way, or like just certain behaviors, right?
Yeah. So what you're describing is contrast,
Yes.
right? So it's kind of interesting and fun that like when we're growing up and we're in this household with our parental figures, right? And this is what we know. This is all that we know. We don't know that there's different ways that things could be, or households being different from ours.
Yes.
You know, and we just think that everyone's family does things the way our family does things,
Right,
or
right.
lives the way that our family lives.
Yeah.
Right. So then all of a sudden we grow up,
We do.
and then we go
That's
to
our theme
school,
music.
la 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 la, and we realize, wow, there's all these different people there, and then we want to emulate different personalities. There's
Right.
different aspects of different personalities that kind of intrigue us, and so as little kids, we're now trying these things on, and of course, our parents don't really understand what's happening. What happened to my kid? It went to school. It's somebody else.
Right.
I remember my children going through that, and more so, well, it doesn't matter, but, and it was just fun for me to watch
Right.
and to see it from, as an observer, opposed to the human being who's going through it.
Right.
Because obviously I went through it, and there's things that I've tried on, because I can remember still yet, and I'm coming back to your topic, but I still have to say this because this is kind of funny.
cute, guys.
So in grade school, I remember my second grade teacher, and I never bit my nails until my second grade teacher. She bit her fingernails.
Oh.
And her nails were like way, way down into the bed. And then she would get chalk, and we had chalkboards then, and the yellow chalk would be all over her hands.
Oh.
And because I admired her so much, and I just thought she was so pretty, and then I saw, this is the little kid in me. This is what sticks with me. Like, Colleen, I am like, how old? And I still can remember this from second grade. But I just remember like admiring her But it was her hands that stuck out the most because that was the one thing I can emulate.
Right.
Next thing you know, I'm biting my fingernails.
Ah.
And I remember an aunt in Florida who had only saw me like every other year or maybe, once every 2 years because of the distance, right? And back then, we couldn't fly and planes weren't as regular as they are now.
Right.
Or as cheap as they are now or comparatively. But when she did come up and she saw my hands, she gave me such a hard time.
Did you really?
About me biting my nails and telling me how disgusting it is. And then she made another impression. Right?
Yeah.
So why do I say this? Because now that you had spent a whole year, 2 semesters away from home,
right,
you've had a whole nother impression of life and experience, independence.
Right.
Ooh, I love the independence, right? That whole idea of practicing being on your own.
Right.
Because to some extent, you're still under the umbrella of your parents because there are still things that they help you with, right?
Right.
But you're living without them, so then you're responsible for your routine. You're responsible for making sure that you're cleaning or you're taking care of things, figuring out, your routine really set the whole thing. So why am I going to break that all apart? So, the routine being of when you eat, when you get up in the morning, getting to your classes on time, doing your homework, you get to decide all of that, how much you're going to study, who you're hanging out with, how you're going to entertain. Are you going out? Are you staying in? Who's coming over? Who are you hanging out with? You know what I mean? Where are you going? And you're not asking permission of anyone.
That's a very big one.
Right. And nor are you checking in.
Yes.
And what time do I have to be home back at my dorm, Mommy, today? Yeah, right? So you're not doing any of that.
Yeah.
So that's why I say it's like a real practice to being on your own.
Right.
So now you've gotten into this routine. You liked your room at the dorm, right?
Right.
You kind of liked how it felt. You had your own space. Nobody was barging it. Well, initially people were, but you have all this. What are you gonna say?
Right. No, I was just gonna say. Then over time, I set the boundary, and then they wouldn't barge in. Which was nice.
Right. And you did fabulously. Right.
Thank you.
And that's all part of the growth that you had.
Yes.
And anybody, really anyone who goes to college, this is the level of growth that can be had. It's an opportunity of growth.
Yeah.
An opportunity of development. So college, and we've said this before on this podcast, that college is not just about, you're not paying for just the classes.
Right.
And you're not paying just for a place to live. You're paying for a full-on, well-rounded experience.
Yeah.
And it is up to you as a student to take full advantage of it. So, I've known and come across other college students who really didn't do that.
Right.
Right? They lived away. They lived at a dorm, but they would go to school, come back to the dorm, and never leave.
Right.
So, maybe the only time they'd go out is if they had a shop for food.
Right. Yeah.
But they really didn't immerse themselves into any social aspects and just getting out and experiencing different things.
Right.
But that's their experience. That's what they chose for that well-rounded opportunity, right? But now you come home from all of that wonderful growth, finding of yourself, or at least pieces of yourself.
Right, yeah.
Finding out how you want to be as a human being without the extra voices in the ears.
Yeah.
Without the extra distractions of the family. Because let's face it, our families think that they know who we are.
Yes.
So in a very physical, outward way, they will express that. And they'll say, oh, well, you're this. Oh, really? Am I now? I don't feel that on the inside.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So then they're imposing themselves upon us.
Right.
Going away to college, having that space, that gives us that opportunity to figure it out for ourselves without the extra outside noise feeding into it.
Right.
Plus, you're at and you had said this too in the beginning of the college year. It's kind of great going somewhere where no one really knows you.
That is, yes. I feel like that was a very big thing for me.
Right. And then did you get to develop you?
I did get to develop me because no one had any expectations of like, oh, when Sherry goes to an event, this will happen, or Sherry talks this certain way, or this is like what Sherry contributes to this. It was just kind of like, yeah, nobody knew, and it was really nice to find me there.
And that's awesome, right?
It was very awesome.
So you got to play and figure out what feels good for you. Where do you resonate?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And now that you've come home, you're a different person than the person you were when you left. Yeah, they got to see you at Thanksgiving. Yeah, they got to see you at Christmas. Yeah, they probably got to see you around, spring
Right.
break. But it's not for a really long length of time, right?
Right.
And you always knew that you had the place to go back to.
Yeah.
If and you were close enough to school that you could. Some people are not.
Right.
Like, all right, I had enough of this. I'm driving back to school. But now you packed up your apartment and had to move everything back home.
Yep.
With the parental figures.
Yes.
And there's a level of mourning that goes along with that.
Very much so.
Right.
That's what I've been doing, guys.
Is there a level is it fair to say that there's a level of trepidation that also comes with that?
Oh, for sure. Because when I was counting down the days and everyone was telling me like, oh, my move out date was a certain date. And I'm like, oh, I'm sad, but I'm nervous and I'm a little anxious. It was just that kind of feeling. And I remember being on the phone with you, packing up my room. And I'm like, I can't move this one thing off because then it's really over. And you're like, well, it's a new beginning, coming back home because you are a very different person. And I kind of wanted to add on to what you were saying about visiting between the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize how much I changed from like maybe the last holiday I was there, maybe like a couple weeks ago for a birthday or something, how much I changed in those weeks just coming up and just moving in there. I'm like, oh, wow, I did really change.
Yes. And the thing is that now we're moving home, and now that you're moving home, right, you've done a lot of changing, but the people you are rejoining at home, everything has been status quo.
Yeah, and I did not realize that until you said it. I was like, what's going on? Why is this like this? And you're like, they didn't change. You changed. That's why you're noticing it more.
That's right. That's right. So what do you do with that, right? Because there's a
Yes.
couple. It's like this. It's like this big pot of stuff that's just kind of stirring around, right? Like, oh yeah, now I see the contrast more.
Right.
The contrast in where I want to be, opposed to where things are.
Yes.
Not to mention the contrast in where they think, or where they believe who you are. I didn't say
Right.
that so pretty, but I think you get what I'm saying.
Where they believe I am, as opposed to where I believe
like
I am.
who they believe you are,
Right.
opposed to who you now are.
Yes.
Because when you left, that's the person they believe that you are.
Yeah.
They weren't there for your growth and journey
No.
because you were separate.
Right.
And you're having all of these other experiences that they're not partaking in.
Mm-hmm.
So they're partaking in kind of the same old experiences that they've been for the most part. I mean, like, I'm
Right.
just generally speaking here.
Yeah.
And now you're home with all of your crap load of new experiences. They're, woohoo, look at me. Right?
Yeah.
But they're not privy to it because they weren't there to watch the growth.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of like, reminds me of, like, sometimes when you watch on sitcoms or movies or whatnot, somebody has a little baby and they're just waiting to see the baby walk, and I want to see the baby walk, right? But the mother's a working mom, or the mother just happens to look away and then the baby's walking and she misses the first steps.
Right. Yeah.
So it's kind of along those lines, right?
Mm-hmm.
The parent, because you're away, there's steps in your growth that they're not really fully seeing.
Right.
So they are going to they are going to still treat you the way that they did before you left school.
Right. Yeah.
And of course, and this is part of that adultshipping piece, right? Like, oh crap, I'm not a kid. Can't you see that? I just fended for myself for a year.
Yeah.
So what we do is we take a breath. We recognize it. We consciously recognize it. And then in any way we possibly can, we teach them how to treat us.
Right.
Well, what do you mean by that? Right?
Right.
So what do I mean by that?
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
Oh, come on. You know what I mean by that. What do I mean by that?
Tell me. Tell me in plain English what you mean by that.
Oh, you want me to tell you?
Yes.
Oh, Sherry really doesn't make this easy. That means that when it's about setting personal boundaries. Okay.
I like,
So,
that one.
So for me, for instance, and please do chime in here. My parents sometimes when we were younger would kind of put me or my siblings, mostly me or my sister, because the boys were smart enough to never be around, or they just never really called on the boys, in the middle.
Right.
Especially when my parents weren't talking.
Yes.
Kathleen, go tell your dad. Blah, 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 blah.
I could attest to that.
Okay,
Same
Mom.
thing.
Do. Then my dad would say, Kathleen, go tell your mom. Blah, 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 blah. You know, I love it because my daughter will go, I am not your owl.
That's so
From
funny.
From Harry Potter, right?
Yeah.
I know that, you know, from what you share with me, your parents aren't quite in that situation, but there are still aspects,
They're
right?
still owling. It's still a
Yeah.
thing. Very big factor.
Because what ends up happening is that parents end up in this pattern of relating.
Right.
And then they start out, I mean, who knows how the relationship starts, because kids are not there for the beginning of the relationship.
Right.
I wasn't there for the beginning of my parents' relationship.
Yeah.
I had to pull a lot of that information out just to get even an idea. And then it wasn't good enough for me just to get that information from my parents. I had to get that information from whatever siblings of theirs were around.
Right.
To get it from their perspective so I could get a better picture of what was really happening.
Yeah.
My parents were crazy for each other.
Mm.
Duh, that's why they got married. Right? So, but life happens.
Right.
And as life happens between money, children, housing, like all of these issues that arise and stress comes along with it, it changes how people relate to one another. Kind of like you going away from school and coming back home again.
Yes.
It's going to change how your parents and you will relate.
Right.
So this is where it's an opportunity for you to teach them how to relate with you. So mom says, Sherry. Sorry.
No, it's good. Keep going.
Sherry, will you ask your father to do whatever, right? Or maybe your parents would use you as a sounding board. I don't know. Some parents do.
Yeah, I can see that.
My
for
mom
me.
used to do that.
Same, yeah.
But I didn't, at the time my mom was doing that, I didn't have the information that I now obtain, or that I have, because I needed to live life a little bit more to really understand. And this is why we come together here, right? Is to share kind of like some of my insights along with your insights, yours, Sherry, as to some of those experiences and what we've learned from them in the hopes to help somebody else to get there faster.
Right. No, go, were you going?
No, please go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I can relate to that with the owl piece because, like, you know, again, before I left, I was the owl between both of my parents, mostly my mom, but I would be the owl piece, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't really like this, but this is all I know, so whatever, this happens with everyone. And it's like, as soon as I left, I would get, you know, just some calls checking in, and I see them both relating to each other without a third party, which I'm like, that's great, you should be doing that. And then I come back and it's the little bit of the owl piece, and I was talking with you earlier about that. I'm like, I don't like this, I don't want to be a part of this. And you're like, you teach people how to treat you. So by doing so and having the conversation and saying, hey, I don't really want to be put in the middle, it's not really fair to both parents, or something along the lines with that conversation.
So pause for a second.
Pause.
That's really good information to share, right? So if you're a young person who's a young adult, let's just say that you are experiencing that.
Right.
Where you are the monkey in the middle or the owl.
Yeah.
Right? Or you're that person that one of the parents or guardians had decided that you're their confidant.
Right.
And they're just going to have a gripe session with you about their partner.
Right.
Which happens to be your parent or guardian that you happen to love just as equally as much as you do the person that's trying to talk in your ear.
Right.
And that puts you in an awkward position. Now, whether or not you realize it or not, it puts you in an awkward position.
Yes.
And sometimes when we're not fully developed in our emotional growth, which is a lot of us, come on, let's face it, especially a lot of us here in the United States, right? That you may think that you're doing something good by listening because you love that person so much that you want to be there for them.
Right.
But it makes you really uncomfortable because you like this other person.
Yeah.
And then over time what ends up happening is you get mad at the other person because you're buying into what this person is saying.
Yes.
But that's unfair to you
right.
as the child of these two people. As the young adult child of these two people, that's not fair to you.
Right.
Right? Because it's not really loving of you.
Yeah.
It's only loving of that person who's griping in your ear because that person is getting exactly what they want is they want to have a little complaining session.
Right.
Right? So the best thing that a young adult that's in this situation can do, especially when you're coming back from college, because this is a great time to change patterns.
That's very true. Yeah.
And this is a pattern. So what you do is you say, we're just going to pick on your poor mom.
She's a lovely lady, but yes,
Excuse me.
go forth.
She is, but let's just say your mom decides she's going to come complain to you about your dad.
Right.
And she's like, Sherry, blah, 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 yo, father, blah, 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 whatever, whatever she's saying. Right? And you can just say, Mom, I can see that you're upset about something, and I love you so much. I really would love to help you with that. But by you coming to me with this, it really makes me uncomfortable because I love both you and father equally. I love you so much.
Right.
That this puts me in an awkward position.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes if we just state that, believe me, parents love their kids. Unless they're an extremely abusive turd muffin.
Yikes.
Am I allowed to say that?
Yes, you can. I don't have to bleep that out.
That's just going to stop them in their tracks and make them think.
Right.
Right? So that's one way to kind of just get out of the middle of that.
Mm-hmm.
So changing the pattern. That's a way to show that parent, this is how I want you to interact with me.
Right.
Is one thing's for sure, I don't want that.
Right.
Because it's not fair to you.
Yeah.
And it's really not fair to the other parent.
Right.
Either.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, so changing the patterns, setting the boundaries, showing them how to treat you.
I love that.
Right?
Yeah.
So I know that you had came to me with something similar to this, and I feel like I'm missing it. Do you remember?
Do I remember?
Yeah, do you remember?
No.
Okay.
What, the other day?
Yeah, we hit on this a little bit, and then, all right, I guess it's not important. If it's not coming to me, it's not meant to be said.
Well, there you go.
All right, well, then we're moving on. All right, we all moving on.
Thanks for taking the pulse and asking, though.
Oh, you're welcome.
Appreciate you.
All right, so coming back from college, right, for the summer with the parents, with the guardian.
Yes.
With the new you.
Yes.
The new amazing you.
Yes.
Ooh,
and
ooh.
also something that we did touch on like a while back in conversation, not on the podcast, but just outside, is just like being used to the chaotic energy. And always feeling like, oh gosh, I need to be hyper fixating on something. So when I did have that transition into moving home, I'm like, there's something.
Oh, that's right. So yeah. So let's break this down a little bit too. So as you come home, the energy is different. Like you're going to feel that contrast because when you're off at school, it's a whole different feel.
Yes.
Depending, like I know for you, Sherry, it was more of a Zen feel. It was more peaceful.
Yeah.
You were able to give yourself quiet time.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Which is, you're a person who needs that. There's people out there who don't need that. They need more of the bustle and the hustle, and they feel energized by that.
Right.
Whereas maybe their home life is really quiet. Do, 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 do. You know, maybe they need more of that. But whatever that contrast is, when you're coming back home, always take that big deep breath and realize that, hey, that energy does not need to be your energy. And that energy you don't need to own or take in, right? And it can just kind of like I know for you, sometimes it's about the heavy and the dense and this craziness. Like I've had that kind of a day today.
Yes.
Sometimes it's really hard to breathe. But it is maintaining your sense of humor. It's about taking a big deep breath. It's about remembering that energy that's there is not necessarily for you. It's somebody else's energy, right?
Yeah.
So I want to address that first, and then there are ways to move that energy on, so it's not something you're carrying around, but that's a whole nother podcast. But coming back to what you're saying is that there are times because we work so hard to find our center, right? And our center really is about neutrality.
Yes.
Because we live in polar opposites, right?
Yeah.
And there is a scale, and we've talked about that before too, where on emotions it's a scale.
Right.
And it just isn't like this is this and it's black and white. No, it is a full scale of all kinds of combinations. So as we're growing and we're trying to find who we are and we're trying to find our center and we're trying to find our healthiness, sometimes we will go through certain self-analysis, right?
Right.
And as we're trying to get in touch with our feelings and really understand, what am I feeling on this big, long scale of feelings that we were just talking about?
Yeah.
From one side to the other. And where am I in between those 2 points?
Right.
And why am I there?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, oh my goodness, I'm here and I'm feeling this way. Why am I feeling this way? I feel like I gotta analyze this way. Oh my gosh, what do you mean?
She's doing an impersonation of me, guys. That is me to a T, growling and all.
So, breathe, right?
Yes.
If we know that we've been doing our inner work and that, we're in touch with feelings and we're actually feeling feelings.
Right.
We don't always need to dissect why are we feeling what we're feeling.
Ooh.
We can just feel.
That's a big one.
And that's delicious in and all of itself. It doesn't
chocolatey.
matter what. Yes. Melty chocolatey. And it doesn't matter where on that scale of emotion, whether it's on what we would deem the positive side or the not so positive side, right? Lighter or denser,
Right.
However you want to label that. And again, there's this very mishmashy kind of scale, because you could be happy and melancholy all at the same time. Or
I've had that where it's been different emotions at once, and I'm like, I think I'm going crazy.
Oh, I know. I've actually been like really ticked off but ecstatically happy and peaceful.
That happens?
Oh yeah, you'd be amazed. We're human beings.
Wow.
That's part of the experience, is to experience all those nuances of all those different emotions.
I didn't know they could happen at once, though.
Well, it's kind of like a little roller coaster, like in split seconds or less than a second. It could just all be kind of swirling around there all at once. Some of my best memories is sitting up late at night with my sister, and we go through this range of emotions. We're laughing, and then we're crying, and then we're just like laughing, and then we're just goofy, and then, it's just like, woo, it was like people walking by be like, what y'all smoking, but we weren't. We didn't.
Scouts honor.
Absolutely. And I was a scout. Once upon a time, and so was she. Anyway, I digress.
Good for you. Good for the Scouts.
Yeah, they were so lucky to have us. We don't always need to analyze everything. Right? If a situation comes at us and all of a sudden we're feeling like this really strong reaction on one way or the other, then maybe we need to take a pause, take a breath, right? Is this mine? Is that theirs? Whose is it? If it's mine, okay, I'm just going to take note of this and come back to it later. But I'm going to try and stay centered or neutral in getting through whatever this situation is, whether it is just allowing their emotion to go past me or just addressing, right? Later, when I get a chance and I'm not so in the middle of something, all right, why did I feel this way? Why did I have such a reaction to that?
Right.
Right? Then we can go back into it. But if we're just having a day that all of a sudden I'm just feeling weepy, like I had that yesterday. I'm just feeling weepy. I have no reason to feel weepy, but it just was. So you know what? I just allowed myself to feel it.
Nice.
And then I felt it, and a part of me was just like, wow, this is really interesting. Why am I feeling this way? I don't know, but I'm just going to go with it. Okay, we're just going to go with it. This is an experience. It's like a ride. Now, it's only bad if I make it bad.
Yeah.
And I've done that in my lifetime where I've judged myself and said, oh, girls don't cry. Big girls don't cry. What are you doing, you baby? Like, suck it up.
Right.
But then, like, how does that serve me? Why is what's the word?
Suppressing?
No.
Oh.
I am not it with the words today.
Me neither.
All right. So with me, beating myself up or me just not being nice to me, saying negative things to myself, how does that serve me? How does that lift me? It doesn't.
Right.
Especially since, you work so hard to change the interior story, to change the mind stories, because it's the mind stories that trips us up.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening for me, because I realize, transitioning and moving into moving back with my parents is like a big transition, and I think I've downplayed it within myself, because I'm like, okay, I'm going home, no big deal, I could do this, but I'm feeling this slew of emotions, and instead of like feeling the feels, I'm like, oh, but why do I feel this way today? Why do I feel this at this certain time of the day? And I'm hyper analyzing it instead of feeling it, which suppresses it more, which then means you're not in flow.
Do you ever realize that, like, when we are feeling a little emotional about things or a little reactive about things, and as females, sometimes we'll look at the calendar and go, oh,
yeah,
I am premenstrual.
I'm like,
right?
Is it my period?
So once we acknowledge that that's happening, then all of a sudden we give ourselves a lot of leeway for the emotions that we're feeling.
That's so true, because sometimes I'll be like, oh, I got my period. But for any other time, I'm like, nope, this is unacceptable. I need to like analyze this.
So what if every week
was my period? Is that what we're
and
saying?
Even
right
if
now?
you're a guy, why not? I'm just saying, why not give yourself that space and that permission to feel?
That's very, that's true. Instead of the whole like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm just in a mood. You know what I mean? Because that's usually my first reaction with like, whenever I'm having this is like, oh, I'm sorry. Like it's like
And why are we apologizing for feeling?
I don't know. I blame society.
Yeah, but there's no reason to blame anyone, but it's a good question to ask ourselves.
It is.
And I think that if just two people, if you and I just start.
Right.
Not questioning why am I feeling, and just feel. And then we meet people, and then two more people do it, and two more people do it. Wow, we'll just have a bunch of people who know how to feel.
I do like that.
Yeah. And of course, we have to be responsible for our own feelings. We can't be blaming our feelings onto other people, because we own our feelings. Yes. We're the ones who get to decide to feel.
Right.
Right. So I feel like we just kind of like chunked in like 3 big topics in this little
You're
podcast.
welcome. It's because we weren't here last week or the other week, so you're welcome.
Yeah, and we've been swirling in a lot of feels, but not in a bad way.
No.
Because the other thing is, too, it's not just the people where we get feelings from, right? It's not just from the energies from people that come our way, or circumstances that people create that come our way that cause our feelings. Nature can affect our feelings. Thunderstorms, think about those. I mean, like when for me, when those clouds start turning this beautiful steel blue gray kind of, well, steel is gray, but that steely blue color, and it gets really deep, and it has those hints of those whites that are like gray and then really white, and then and the clouds are big and puffy, and then sometimes depending on where the sun is and how the clouds are laid out, but it's like that storm that's rolling in, and you can feel like that electricity in the air.
Yeah.
And you can start smelling the rain. To me, that just feels so kind of cozy in a way.
It does feel very cozy. And I'm like, I want to be inside
right?
with the covers.
And then I start to feel a little romantic.
Cute.
Well, yeah, because now you're going to be inside, right?
Yeah.
Why not?
I love that.
Opposed to a thunderstorm that rips through when you're in bed asleep already and wakes you up and scares the bejeebies out of you, right?
Is that not romantic? I think that's very
Not
romantic.
quite as romantic
Wow.
as being able to smell the air and feel the air change.
She's doing ASMR for the freaking thunderstorms. Is that romantic enough for you guys? Did y'all miss us? I think for me, I could say the same. I don't know if I feel romantic, but now I might. I might think of it that way as more romantic. But I get what you're saying, right? Because you got the thunderstorms and it's cozy and you want to stay in and you want to snuggle and it's like cute. And I do enjoy that time for thinking.
Right. So weather can affect our feelings or our moods or things of that nature, right? But so can the planets.
Oh, we're going there.
We're
going there. Are you going to talk about the lunar eclipse or what?
I feel that I almost have to. So on May 16th, I mean, anybody can Google this, right? So go ahead and Google it. You'll see it. Like, you want to Google like a lunar eclipse or blood moon or something along those lines.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So what ends up happening is those planetary shifts, that's energy there too. And it's energy that directly affects our planet in our solar system, which then affects all the peeps around us, right? So when certain eclipses and then like when planets move in certain directions, did you guys all know that planets will spin one way and then spin another way?
They'll just spin left and then go right for no reason?
Kind of some of them, yeah. And they're considered like retrogrades, like when they spin the opposite way or they go the other way. We'll get into that more later down the road. But basically what ends up happening, so we have planets right now around this lunar eclipse. Some planets are in retrograde. Eclipses are about bringing up things that are hidden or things that we push down. Right. It's all about the emotions. So we all know, like, when there's a full moon,
it gets a little crazy.
It gets a little interesting, right? And a lot of people say, all the crazies come out on a full moon. Basically, what happens is the moon is about our emotions, right? So now you have an eclipse of that full moon, so it's about the emotions that are hidden. And so that causes us sometimes to feel some things we had shoved down. So all of a sudden now we might be feeling some kind of way, because we need to address what it is that we're trying to hide.
Oh, for sure. I could also attest to that, because I would have dreams. Obviously, people have dreams. But I would come to you talking about the dreams, and I'm like, and you'd be like, oh, we would interpret them together, and you're like, oh, it's about this situation that happened a while ago. And I'm like, what? That's so long ago. Is this still a thing? And it kind of proves your point to what you're saying. It's like things that you may have suppressed that you didn't know about bubbling up to light so you could heal.
Yeah, and why are they bubbling up to light? Why did they bubble up? Why did they come to our attention? It's so we can release them. Because, again, this podcast is like now four podcasts in one. because our experiences, the things that happens to us, they live in our cells. So we hear people talk about disease being us shoving our feelings down, about us not really living our truth because we're suppressing. And if we keep suppressing, your body has to find a way to purge these things. And sometimes it comes out in the form of a disease or as other people will say, dis-ease, right?
Yeah.
So when things bubble up, see it as a blessing. And just know that, like, when you're feeling those things, you take a breath, right? Don't judge you. Don't judge the feeling. Thank it for coming up and ask it to go. Release it.
Okay.
So then that way it's coming out of the cells of you, and that makes more room for all the good stuff to come in.
I do like that you said the term, like, release instead of heal, because I initially was like, oh, to heal. But when I was having those dreams and when you were explaining it to me, I'm like, is there anything I need to do? Because I was like analyzing, I'm like, do I have to do anything? And you're like, no, you could just
right,
release.
because you had already done the work.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, sometimes, like, if we know that we've done the work on this,
Right.
then what the heck is it coming up again for? Right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it's those times definitely where you just bless it and you thank it. And why are we blessing and thanking it? Well, because it served us.
Right.
It did. It helped us to grow into who and what we are today.
Right.
Into the beautiful beings that we are. So we always want to bless that because it was a service. Good, bad, or indifferent.
Right.
You know, those are all still things that are serving us.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Well, good. Because, man, I could keep talking because I feel like that, like I can elaborate on that even more. But I kind of think that we're at time.
I think we hit the marks. I think you answered my question thoroughly very well.
Oh, did I thoroughly? Too much? Too thoroughly?
No. Just
right?
Just right. Just the right amount.
I like just right.
So did Goldilocks.
All right, Mama Bear. Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening. I hope you got something good out of it.
Thank you for tuning in. Remember that you are bigger than anything that you are going through or anything that is happening around you.